Greetings. This is Pastor Kim. I come with you to another session of the UpSide. I try to come to you every Wednesday with a word of encouragement. Get a word of encouragement. So as we coming down to the wind down of summer, I just want to talk about a word that just kind of been interesting to me. And that word is boundaries. Yep. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about boundaries. So we understand that boundary is a healthy limit that you establish to protect your time, your energy, your values, your emotion, well-being, and relationship. A boundary tells people what you will and will not accept or participate in or even take responsibility for. So also understand that a boundary is not a wall, not a wall at all. A wall keeps everyone out. A boundary just creates a healthy space, right? For us to have relationships that can exist that are respectful, responsible, and accountable. And so when I think about boundaries, and so I think I just had a conversation with a friend of mine, and we were just talking about some things that was acceptable and not acceptable, some expectations that we had. And what I realized is that boundaries were being set, right? It's not that they didn't care for some things, they're just setting boundaries. And so that I now know that, you know, let's not call or hang out after 8 or 9 o'clock. That's beyond their boundaries. Okay, then I respect that boundary. We'll go hang out with somebody else who don't mind 10 o'clock, not 8 o'clock, late night outings or things like that. But I think it's important when people share their boundaries that we're respectful of it. And I think it's double important that we all have boundaries. I know at one point I struggled with having boundaries, just always trying to be available for people who needed me, especially those that are in my circle, just wanted to be there. I figure that's what good friends do. That's what good partners do. That's what good daughters do, sisters do, mothers do. But it's still important to set a boundary, to set a healthy space between things, because some things get crossed, you didn't know, you couldn't do, you shouldn't say, because people don't have boundaries, and but they have boundaries, they're just unspoken boundaries until something happens. So I think it's very important to have boundaries, and so I want to talk about that. And I look at Proverbs 4:23 when it says, keep your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the spring of life, right? It's important to guard our heart, but also just be mindful that we're not cold and unavailable when we don't need to be, because we are to produce life, encourage life, speak life. And so it looks at that. But I think when I want to look at boundaries, a couple of things I want to look at, right, is that one, boundaries doesn't mean rejection, right? Somebody is not rejecting you because they're setting a boundary that is comfortable for them, a boundary that allows them to be okay in a space, in a setting, and to be free at the same time. So you can love somebody and still tell them no. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I got to tell myself that, right? You can forgive someone and still establish distance. You can care about people without allowing them unlimited access to you. And so I think that's important, that when we talk about boundaries, that we're not rejecting people. We're just really setting a time and a space that's just more comfortable, more meaningful, and just more easier for somebody. Boundaries also require some type of responsibility, right? We often want other people to respect our boundaries, but we have to be willing to enforce them, right? A boundary without action is really just a request. And so if we're saying that this isn't something that we like or we're uncomfortable with, we have to say that, and may have to say that a few times so people understand that this is our truth. This is our boundary. Not a rejection, but just making some responsible moves that's easier for the person and easier for you. And then we use boundaries to protect our purpose, right? Everything that wants your attention doesn't deserve your energy. hmm that's the word right there. Everything that needs you doesn't necessarily have to have you. And sometimes just saying no to something good allows you to say yes to something, that God may have purposeful for you. And so some no's are not a bad no's, they're boundary setting. knows that not for now, but maybe for later. My no is no today, but it may not be no tomorrow. But I just need to set the boundary and have the freedom to say no when I need to say no, when I feel that I am at capacity. Emotionally or mentally, I'm just at capacity. I have nothing else to give. I have to be able to set the boundary no. And the people around me have to be able to respect that boundary as no. And so boundaries are just something that's really like meaningful to have. Boundaries are not building walls. They're just about building healthy relationships with God, yourself, and other people. Because boundaries just allow you the freedom to be who you are and helps hold capacity for that. Because sometimes we're so stretched beyond our boundaries that we get irritable, we get annoyed, but it's not the other person's fault. It's ours that we didn't hold true to our boundaries. And so boundaries is a good thing. And so I want us to be mindful of our boundaries and to make sure that they're clear when they need to be clear and to make sure that we stick to them when we need to stick to them. I'm Pastor Kim. Boundaries is our word for this week. We ask you to just use that and just sit in that for a minute and realize how important it is to have those boundaries. They are extremely important. So, blessings to you. Set your boundaries, be consistent, and watch the Lord bless you.